We are good to go. Thank you, Minor, for the tunes. We are going to get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you being here. We are here for National Teen Driver Safety Week. We are extremely excited because we get to have some fun tonight. We get to learn some great information from some amazing people, and we're actually going to hear some fun facts from everyone. So just so everyone knows, this event is sponsored by Behavioral Health Services, South Bay Prevention, and Street Racing Kills in partnership with Mothers Against Drunk Driving California, the Connor Lynch Foundation, Southern California's Families for Safe Streets, Los Angeles Walks, and Streets Are for Everyone. And we will be joined by special guests this week from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Carson Station and also the California Highway Patrol. So we're extremely excited to have you here. This is our first event this week. We will have our second event this Friday, October 23rd. So we'd love for you to invite your friends and family and have them participate. Also, it's not too late for them to join our event today. Registration is still open, so once they register, they will be able to join right away. So just so everyone knows, we are streaming live, and we are streaming on the Behavioral Health Services page, also the BHS Prevention page, Street Racing Kills, Facebook Live, and additionally SBC3 and the Ubuntu Institute of Learning. So we are excited to have you here. Let's meet our presenters for today. We have Lily Trujillo with Street Racing Kills. Lily is an exercise freak. She used to be a Tahitian dancer. She loves traveling and loves animals so much she can't even kill a spider. We have Lois Argumedo with Street Racing Kills. Lori, I apologize. And Lori was a boxer for 17 years. She was on the Women's USA boxing team. She helps her mom with her nonprofit organization, Rescuing Horses, and she has done a few triathlons and a half marathon. So welcome, Lori. We also have Dee Dee Gonzalez with SoCal Families for Safe Streets. Dee Dee placed first and second in mountain biking duathlons before getting injured. The odds of Dee Dee having blue eyes was 6%. Dee Dee has a cousin who was born the same day, the same by the same doctor in the same hospital as herself. And Dee Dee has lived in the same city for 44 years before moving. Next, we have Jerry Lynch with the Connor Lynch Foundation. Jerry has hiked Mount Everest Base Camp, and that was a year ago. Jerry has two amazing dogs. She walks 3 miles a day, and I believe that has increased actually since COVID. And Jerry loves all foods and has eaten a grasshopper in Mexico. Next, we have Roberto Gomez, and Roberto is with the California Highway Patrol. Roberto is a huge Los Angeles Dodgers fan. His favorite food is tacos. He is bilingual and grew up in the city of Bellflower, California. Additionally, and last but not least, we have John Yee, who is the executive director of Los Angeles Walks. John was born in LA. He lived in Russia for a year and learned Russian. He plays the clarinet and played at Carnegie Hall. How awesome is that? And John played lacrosse and joined the team because there were no persons of color on the team, which is outstanding. So those are our presenters tonight. And I'd also like to mention my name is Jen Harris. I am the prevention coordinator with our South Bay prevention team at Behavioral Health Services. We also have our support staff, which is my team, and you'll also be hearing from them on Friday, Erica Winston, Roberta Tapp, and Minor Borjas. So we're excited again to have everyone with us. Just want to give you a heads up that we will be doing an evaluation at the end. And so we're going to ask that each of you complete the evaluation. We'll also have some polls throughout today's event. So you'll have an opportunity to engage and answer some questions and test your knowledge. And at the end, we will have a raffle for all of our youth participants, our teen participants. So we're really excited to have everyone with us. So we're now going to move to Lily Trujillo and Lori, who are going to focus on street racing. So let's watch a short film.
Sure you want to do this?
A lot has changed.
Go.
Let's get straight to the breaking news out of Hollywood this morning.
Yeah, Paul Walker, one of the stars of the enormously popular Fast and Furious movies, dead in a car crash. The accident scene tells the story. There it is. Walker was a passenger.
Don't, but we came from the same area.
Is that, what car is that?
Teens are dead and another is in the hospital after a horrific crash in San Jose. This is one of the victims, 18-year-old Oscar Gonzalez. Another.
The Honda lost control, spun out and struck a light pole and sheared it off its base. The damage to the thick, heavy pole gives some indication of how fast they were going. The car flew in the air and struck a tree, which mangled it. Neighbors who saw the wreckage up close said it was carnage.
The car was split in half. The frame was bent. It looked like he was airborne. And when he collided, his car was split and then just split down the middle. I mean, it was bad.
And with that, I will turn it over to Lily. Thank you. Oh, Lily, you have to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Jen, and thank you everyone that is here today and is joining us, not only all the collaborators and the speakers and hosting as well, but all the parents and children and teenagers that are here and students. I really, really appreciate you being here. I want you guys that you are going to be with us today in this traffic safety journey, which will change your lives. And you are going to hear from personal testimonials, things that we all have seen as founders. When my daughter Valentina passed, so you can see who Valentina was. So yes, so every year in the USA, over 2,500 teens ages 16 to 19 are killed due to a crash. I never ever thought about that, ever in my life, unfortunately. It was not until Valentina that you see right here, when she passed away in 2013 due to a street racing crash. And I had no idea what that was. I had no idea how many people, how many teenagers die every year. And most important, I never thought it would happen to her or to me as a mother. Therefore, I decided I was going to do something about it, and I found the Street Racing Kills. I would love for you to hear Valentina's stories and what happened that night when she passed away, but you have to come back on Friday for that, because today I want to talk about all the amazing people that I have met, other founders and people that have lost someone. Throughout my journey, one day I got invited to go speak at Willowbrook. And just before that, I had heard the news of a crash. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of it.
Now, the woman killed just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her Toyota Camry broadsided by the suspect's car here at 131st and Town. And according to witnesses, the next surveillance video shows the suspect getting into the other vehicle he had been racing and leaving the scene.
So I saw that crash. I didn't know who it was. I had no idea. But the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh my God, the family. Oh my God, the parents. Oh my God, somebody died. And I want you to know that every time you guys see a crash in the news and you hear about it, and then you go to the next one, to think about, there's always a story behind each crash that happens. There's a family destroyed. There's friends. There's a lot that happens. And I'm going to share today, when I went there, I met Lori. And Lori was just sitting there, and I didn't know who she was. I was just there at this town hall to see what happened, who passed away, what was going on. And all of a sudden, I hear somebody tell me, Valentina, right? And I'm like, how does he know Valentina? And he told me, I read all about Valentina. And Lori was sitting right next to him. I gave my car to Lori. And then Lori finally came to my life, and I am so happy to have her in my life. But I want you to know the crash that you saw, the story behind that crash. And here with us, we have Lori Argumedo. Hi, Lori. Can you tell us about what happened?
Okay. Hello. That was really hard for me to watch. I haven't seen that video in over a year, a little over a year. So that was really hard for me to watch, but let me just introduce myself. My name is Lori Argumedo. I am the Events and Marketing Director for Street Racing Kills. I lost my 23-year-old niece to illegal street racing. This is not easy for me to do, but today I'm going to share my family story with the hope to raise awareness about the dangers of illegal street racing and the life-changing consequences. On May 11th, 2019, a vehicle was illegally street racing down a residential street, hit my niece and nephew, Bethany and Emilio Hoguin. The young man driving the vehicle ran the stop sign at an estimated speed of 80 to 100 miles per hour. Bethany and Emilio were only 3 blocks from home when their vehicle was hit. They were both knocked unconscious on impact. Bethany woke up in Emilio's lap as strangers came to her aid. She took her last few breaths. She asked for help, and then her body gave up on her and she passed away. You see, Bethany didn't have a chance. She was hit so hard that both her legs were broken, her neck was broken, her ribs were broken. 3 of those ribs punctured her lungs, and all of her organs were crushed. The autopsy report couldn't even identify what actually killed her. Her little brother, Emilio, was transferred to the hospital, barely clinging to life. Both Bethany and Emilio were considered Jane and John Does till they were identified the following morning. On the morning of May 12th, Mother's Day, instead of celebrating, our family was looking for Bethany and Emilio. Then Bethany's mom received a phone call no one should ever receive, especially on Mother's Day. It was a special agent from the Los Angeles County's coroner's office calling to tell her that her only daughter was killed and that her son was in a coma. Whew. I will never forget the phone call that my husband and I received telling us Bethany was gone and that we needed to go to the coroner's office to identify her. As we drove to the coroner's office, I kept telling my husband, maybe they have the wrong person. It couldn't be Bethany. As we walked into the coroner's office, I kept hoping that it was all just a mistake. The special agent greeted us with, "Sorry for your loss." Then she proceeded to tell us what happened. At that moment, I was still in disbelief. Then the special agent handed me a photocopy of Bethany's ID, and she asked us to validate that that was our niece. Just then, our whole world came crashing down. I literally felt my heart break. That was just the beginning of our nightmare, because not only was Bethany gone, but her little brother was in the hospital, barely clinging on to life. So from the coroner's office, we rushed over to the hospital. I just kept asking God, please do not make Maria have to bury 2 of her children. When we got there, the doctors told us there was a 50-50 chance Emilio was going to make it. They let us go in and out of the ICU all night, just in case he didn't pull through. So Emilio, his skull was crushed, so half of his skull was removed to allow his brain to swell. His left eye socket was crushed. His left cheekbone was crushed. All his teeth were knocked out on the left side. His left arm was broken. His pelvis was broken, but he was the lucky one. Emilio still has a long road to recovery. He has had multiple surgeries and suffers from seizures. The young man responsible for Bethany's death was charged with vehicular manslaughter and felony hit and run. He received a 7-year prison sentence, while our family received a life sentence of agony. Bethany also has a 7-year-old daughter. She is Bethany's pride and joy. They were best friends and did everything together. Layla still doesn't understand that her mommy is never coming home. So I will leave you with one last thing today. I am here for Bethany. I want to raise awareness. I made a promise to Bethany before we buried her that I would keep her memory alive. Bethany was a mother, a sister, a daughter, a niece, and a good friend to many. She was adventurous and enjoyed trying new things, visiting new places, and traveling. She enjoyed museums, hiking, taking long drives, or just listening to music all day. She was as unique as her various hair colors. Bethany never cared about what others thought. She did what made her happy. Her life was her journey, and she lived it her way. She flies with her own wings now and will guard our family night and day. Thank you. And I will hand it back to you, Lily.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. That was beautiful. It's really hard for our victims to talk about something so personal, too dear to our hearts. But we do this because we don't want this to happen to anyone. Street racing and speeding are extremely dangerous, and unfortunately happens more than we can imagine. I didn't even know what it was. I had no idea until it touched my life in the worst way that can ever happen to a parent. And I asked one day an officer, why, what happens? Why did this happen? And he told me very clearly, he says, Lily, well, there's 3 crashes. So we all think there's only 1 crash, but it's actually 3 crashes. The first crash is the vehicle against an object. The second crash is your body against an object. And the third crash is your organ against your body. So that's something that it stayed, and now I understand what are our responsibilities as drivers, what we can do, and the responsibility that we have to have when we're driving a car, who we're getting in the car with. We are also responsible to make sure that our driver is being responsible, whether they're texting, whatever they're doing, going too fast, drinking, anything. We are as much responsible as the driver himself. But thank you so much for listening to Lori, for listening to me as well, regarding the dangers of illegal street racing and speeding. And now I think, Jen, who's next?
Hi, Lily. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. We appreciate you all for sharing your stories. And we know and truly, I can never understand because I haven't experienced it, but I have experienced loss, and it is extremely hard. And so we hope that for those of you who are joining us, that whether you're on Facebook Live or if you're here at the event, that you're also taking care of yourself and practicing self-care in these moments, because we understand that this is heavy, and also acknowledge that this is real. So we are now going to move into distracted driving, which is another important topic and something that we want to make sure our teens know and understand. And so, with that, we're going to move into Dee Dee Gonzalez, and Dee Dee is going to share with us. And following Dee Dee, we will move into Jerry Lynch with the Connor Lynch Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story in hopes that no one else has to go through what I have. In March of 2017, I was riding my motorcycle when I was hit by a 16-year-old boy using his phone. He crossed over the double yellow line, hitting me head on. I sustained an open pelvic fracture, 2 fractures to my sacrum, and a fractured femur, and my leg was so badly broken that my foot was kind of between my shoulder and head. It took numerous blood transfusions and many hours to stop the bleeding, and then 9 hours of surgery to install the hardware that holds me together. The pelvic injury almost killed me, and I never lost consciousness during this. And I just kept telling myself I could not die before my mom. I could not die before my mom. And thanks to an amazing medical team, I am alive today. So recovery has been hard and frustrating. About 31 days after being hit, I was transferred into a wheelchair. And then 6 weeks after that, I was able to put weight on my legs. For a full 6 weeks, I couldn't put weight on either leg because of all the hardware. So that was my journey of beginning to learn how to walk again. And then about 70 days after being hit, I was released to go home and continue my recovery. It was many months before I was able to walk without a cane or a walker. And although I look well, my body is permanently injured. The fractures I sustained do not really have full recoveries. Not an hour goes by that I don't have some sort of pain or discomfort. The sacrum break caused nerve damage, which led to numbness in parts of my body, bladder issues, weakness and nerve pain. I can walk and I can stand, but not for very long before I need to take a break or feel fatigued. And once again, 3.5 years later, I'm back in physical therapy. So before this boy made the decision to look at his phone instead of the road, I was a very active woman. I would run, mountain bike, hike, snow ski. I'd actually been on a ski trip less than a month earlier. And had I known it would be my last opportunity to ski, I would have done a few more runs before the end of the day. So I could talk for hours about the injuries, the suffering, the frustrations of insurance, just everything. My friends and family that had to miss work while they cared for me because I couldn't be alone for 6 months. But since we've got some teenage viewers, and that's what this is about, is driving safety for teenagers, let's think about the impact that this had on the boy who hit me. He was 16 when it happened. He had not been driving for very long, a junior in high school, just beginning his life. He was charged with felony reckless driving, and it's a serious charge. Had I died, he would have been charged with vehicular manslaughter. So nobody wants a felony on their record, especially in the beginning of adulthood. So the boy's attorney and the assistant district attorney settled with a plea for misdemeanor reckless driving. And this was a really tough decision for me because I really felt his crime was a felony. But had we lost, I would not have been able to do my victim impact statement or receive criminal restitution. And being able to speak to him directly was paramount for me. And I was going to need some financial assistance for the lifelong health issues that I will have. So we went ahead and took the deal. The criminal justice system is different for minors. The terms are different. The goal is rehabilitation. There's not punishment, it's consequence. The whole deal is so that you hope the minor does not repeat the crime. So by the time we had our court hearing where I was able to actually speak to the boy who hit me and give my impact statement, it had been about 2 years since the crash. And there had been at least 8 court appearances. And I know the impact that that had on me and my family. His mom was at each appearance sitting in the gallery where I sat. I imagine it took a financial toll as well as an emotional toll on his family because lawyers are expensive. So also they say the brain of a teenager is not fully formed, that impulsive decisions are more likely and they are less likely to feel remorse. So I can't tell you how the boy felt then or how he feels now. I do know that he turns 20 in a few days. At some point, he will realize the depth of this one bad decision of choosing his phone over safety. His decision to look at his phone instead of the road nearly killed me. That's got to be hard to live with. I can't imagine. So I get to live with permanent injuries and he gets to live with guilt. So it's a no-win for both of us. When I see people choosing to use their phone while driving, I get really frustrated and hope that if they do crash, that they don't hurt anyone else besides themselves. And we all know it's dangerous and illegal. So I really do encourage teenagers to choose wisely. Think before you get behind the wheel of a car and, you know, commit to being safe. Make a decision that you're not going to hurt yourself or hurt other people. That's all I can say is an encourage. Like, I wouldn't want what happened to me to happen to anyone, including the boy who hurt me. And I wouldn't want any of you all to put your families through what I've gone through, or Lily and Lori's family is similar. So I've got a little picture to show you real quickly. It's my background, so you can see just a little bit about, one moment, what my insides look like now, since I do look pretty normal. This here, I drive in my car. I use it as like a screen in the window during the summer months. You can see all the metal that I now have inside my body. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my story. I appreciate Lily and her organization and all the other organizations have worked to put this together, because really our whole goal is for other families not to have to go through what we've been through. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee Dee, for sharing your story. That is tough. And to have lifelong health issues is extremely difficult. We're now going to turn it over to Jerry to share her story. And Jerry, you can let me know when you want me to play the film.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Everybody?
Yes, we cannot see your video.
Thank you. There we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Dee Dee. Dee Dee and I worked together with families, SoCal Families for Safe Streets, and it was very impactful to hear you speak about that. I am very happy to be with you here today. I'm honored, actually, because today is the 10th anniversary of my son's Angel Day. And it is National Teen Driver Safety Week at the same time. Connor was killed. He was 16. He was killed on October 19th, 2010. It was about this time that I was getting messages from people. And I'm just really happy to be able to work with people to try to raise awareness about the dangers of distracted driving on the 10th anniversary of his Angel Day. We heard Lori speak, and I know it was very recently, but I will tell you, even after 10 years, it feels like it was yesterday. Everything still feels the same. And as Lily said, I didn't know, in the same way she didn't know about street racing, I really didn't know about distracted driving. I didn't know anything about National Teen Driver Safety Week until after Connor was killed. He was crossing the street for cross-country training with Notre Dame High School, and he was killed by an 18-year-old distracted, hit-and-run, non-licensed driver. A 16-year-old killed by an 18-year-old during National Teen Driver Safety Week. And that's why we're here, to share our stories and to hope that, to let you know, these are preventable. As I think it was Lily who said, actually I think it was Dee Dee, these are all about choices. The stories that we're talking about in these lives are about choices that were made, and we want you to make the right choices to choose to drive not distracted. So with that, I think I will share Connor's story, and I'll come back and talk about it a little bit afterwards. Thank you so much.
Once there was a boy named Connor.
Connor was a great friend. He was a good guy, and he was one of the easiest people to talk to.
He was the most humble person you could ever meet.
He had a great sense of humor. I never, ever once saw him lose his temper.
Connor, he was like one of my best friends. He was my older brother. We did a lot together. Like, me and him did more than what I did with my friends at school.
With Connor, it's like, he's such a specific type of person. Like, it's Connor. Oh, it's Connor.
It's hard to put into words how to describe Connor. You had to know him.
Here at Notre Dame, we have a lot of people that do several sports, do different sports. And Connor was one of many who played baseball and then came over and ran and did other things.
I played with him in football, but it's when it was cross country is when we actually made a connection.
It was just a normal day at practice.
Me and Connor were hanging out after school, and it was time for me to leave. He still had cross-country practice, and I quit by then.
Him and a couple of his buddies, they usually they stayed late at X period, the study period we have. So I kept looking at my watch, where are those guys? Where are those guys? And they were 20, 30 minutes late, and they're 10 minutes late. They're never this late, and I was getting concerned. And
I got a phone call, and the phone call was from Father Joe, and he wanted to know if I was at home or if I was at work, and that the principal was going to call me. And so I thought, oh, God, what could have happened? Did Connor cheat on a test? Did he leave school?
He was with a group of cross-country team members that were trying to catch up to the other group as they were going to train at the Sherman Oaks Park.
So before, we usually cross the street, like we jaywalk, just to like cut the light because it saves a lot of time. But at this time, we were just walking, and I don't know why, but he just booked it across the street. And I guess he saw one car stop.
And so he cleared the first car, and she didn't see him, and he didn't see her, and then tossed him 90 feet.
And she was going at a pretty rapid rate of speed. Didn't see Connor. It was a sunny day. He was hitting the center of the car.
Like, as soon as the car hit him, like, I just knew, like, that's it. Because the car came so hard.
I just look over, and then I see, like, you know, just a rag doll, basically. And obviously, the most surreal experience.
Got a text message by another friend, Jason, who was also friends with Connor, just with 2 words, a simple text: Connor died.
And a little bit of comfort was that he died really quickly.
We went back to school. I remember driving down Woodman and seeing ambulance lights, and immediately I knew it was real.
Up until that point, like, not many things were as quick as that. Like, some things are like a process, but that was just instantaneous. Like, it just changed my life immediately.
One time you look off the road, one time you check your phone to see who texts you. That's all the time it takes.
Because a simple action like texting while driving can honestly lead to a huge tragic event.
Connor's accident's a constant reminder of just how safe, you know, we are not. Just the daily things we do, driving a little bit above the speed limit, things like that, it's that easy. It only takes 2 seconds.
It's a lot of things. It's not looking, it's looking behind you, it's picking up something off the ground, it's looking at GPS, it's putting your makeup on.
This is what I have to say. There is no such thing as an accident. Everything can be avoided. There's not an hour that goes by that I don't think about it.
lost a teammate.
I lost a friend.
I lost my brother.
I lost my buddy.
I lost my best friend.
I lost my son.
I lost my son.
Thank you, Jerry, for sharing Connor's story.
Thank you.
I'm sure this is extremely difficult, and especially since this is Connor's Angel Day, we just want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being with us on such an important, a special, and impactful day. And we want you to know that we support you and we love you and we're here for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I definitely, these are difficult days, Angel Days and birthdays, but it really gives me great hope that we're here speaking to so many teenagers. I mean, 11 teenagers die every day in the United States because of distracted driving. And that can be prevented. That can be stopped just by the choices that we make. So again, I really appreciate the time, and I hope that by listening to our stories, people can make better decisions and just put the phone down and stop driving distracted. We've got to focus on walking too. Distracted walking is a problem as well. We just really need to focus on what's the most important thing. And this isn't about Connor, although it is his Angel Day. It's really about all the people that we want to prevent from having to go through this. So again, I thank you so much for sharing his story. It's poll time, it looks like.
Yes, so we have some polls that we are going to do, and you all will have the opportunity to do them. So we are going to go into our first distracted driving poll, and all of our participants who are here, you will be able to complete them. So our first question, which of the following behaviors do you believe could be lethal? Waving around a loaded gun, putting on lipstick while driving, adjusting the radio or your playlist while driving, texting while driving, or all of the above. So it looks like we have about 41% that have voted. And we'll give it a little bit more time for folks to vote. Looks like we're at 77%. So which of the following behaviors do you believe could be lethal? All right, so we are going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we are now ending the poll and we are going to share the results. So 96% of those of you that responded said all of the above, which is correct. And we had 4% of folks that said texting and driving. So yes, texting and driving is definitely lethal, including adjusting the radio on your playlist while driving, putting on lipstick while driving, and waving around a loaded gun. So we're going to stop sharing those results and go into our second poll. So our second distracted driving poll. What can you do if you get, okay, so a typo, but if you get in your friend's car and they start texting while driving, try to be a helpful passenger and offer to read the text or reply to the text for them. Make up an excuse to stop and pull over, allowing them time to finish their text or call. Don't bother them. They might be your friend. They might not be your friend if you complain. Or D, grab the phone away from them while they are driving. So Jerry, we're going to let you talk about this one a little bit.
Okay, thank you. I'd be happy to. Should we find out what people think? Because, you know, it is difficult when you get in a car. You could be with your friend, you could be with your parents, and you could be with an older brother or sister. And it might be difficult for you to figure out what to do. So I think we have to be creative and try to come up with things that work under the circumstances, because you have the ability to make decisions. I mean, you don't want to get out of the car in a dangerous area, but you also don't want to continue driving with someone who's driving distracted, because literally they are not watching the road and their brain is not on driving, and your life is in their hands. And I want you to be able to have some tools so that you can do the right thing. It looks like a lot of people want to be helpful passenger, and that is certainly very easy to do. And I would definitely recommend that. If that doesn't work, 22% so far have looked at making an excuse and trying to get them to pull over. And I think that that is perfectly acceptable. I think the one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to grab the phone away, because that could be distracting. But really, the best thing to do is to speak up. And I want to empower you to do that, because really, they're not your friend if they continue to drive distracted. And that's probably the most important thing about this poll result. So good job to everybody who came up with the right solutions.
Awesome, thank you. And we're going to move into our poll number 3 for distracted driving. So this poll says, how confident are you that if you saw your friend texting or looking at apps other than GPS or navigation while driving, you would ask your driver not to do so? So the responses are very confident, moderately confident, slightly confident, or not confident at all. And remember, this question is about you. So how confident are you? So it looks like we have 61%. And we have our photo on our screen with a little meme when the person in front of you is on their phone driving. Yes, it can be very frustrating. They are not paying attention to the road. So it looks like we are going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's see how we responded. So again, the question was, how confident are you that if you saw your friend texting or looking at apps other than GPS or navigation while driving, you would ask your driver not to do so? So we have 50% say very confident, 43% say moderately confident, 4% say slightly confident, and 4% say not confident at all. So we're hoping that as you all attend these events this week, that you will gain the courage and the confidence to say, hey, this is unsafe, or whatever it is that you need to say in a way that they'll be understand, but you're also providing grace so that way they can make the best decision in supporting you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we're now going to move into our next piece. We have our law enforcement portion with Roberto Gomez with California Highway Patrol. Thanks again, Jerry. We appreciate you sharing.
Good afternoon. How are you? My name is Officer Gomez. I'm with the California Highway Patrol, and I've been invited to join in this meeting through MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, because I do a lot of presentations with them and try to spread the word of the dangers of DUI driving. And also, we're also doing now what's called the Driver Impact Panel, which kind of goes into resort of the aggressive driving, reckless driving, and whatnot. A lot of the people involved are the people that are involved with these sideshows. They get cited for speeding, racing, spectating, and whatnot. And I'm sorry to hear for everyone's loss that's within this meeting and all these stories that we're hearing here. And you know, unfortunately, it's an ongoing thing that happens a lot. And as you know, Lori, sorry for your loss. I was actually out at the scene from that collision and incident, and you know, I'm actually the public affairs officer for the Central LA office of the CHP, and where the incident occurred was the South LA area. Part of my job is to provide information to the media, and I was actually interviewed by the media on scene the morning after, and now I can kind of put a face to the victims, and you know, it's just something that just happens so often. And it also goes back to with these guys getting caught is, you know, if you see something, say something. And I think that's a lot of the issues that we have going on in our communities. You know, public's help is always needed. But more importantly, you know, I try to spread the word and hoping that people come to the realization of what's going on out there and what we need to look for, especially with us providing, you know, our patrol. You know, no one's ever happy to get stopped or pulled over or get cited from us. And the whole point of it is not to give you a bad day or get you upset, but, you know, it's to avoid these tragedies that we've been going over. And, you know, I'm not a psychic or whatnot, but I guarantee you within the next couple weekends, it will happen again on our freeways or our city streets. And all we can do is be safe, wear our seatbelts, and spread the word, and hoping to prevent these tragedies. I am, again, a public affairs officer, and anyone on this panel needs my assistance for any type of a community event or joining some kind of a meeting, I'm always available. Please reach out, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Roberto. We appreciate you for being here and the work that you do with the California Highway Patrol. It's extremely important, and we do understand the value, especially as our speakers have talked about tonight. So thank you. I also want to mention to folks that we are approaching our Q&A. We have one more speaker, and we ask that if you have any questions, which we welcome all questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box, and we'll be able to answer them there. So any questions that you can think of for any of our panelists, please feel free to type them there. And with that, we're now going to bring up John Yee with Los Angeles Walks, who will be talking about safe streets. So thank you all very much for being with us. John, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Yee. I am with Los Angeles Walks. I'm the executive director, but I'm also with a group called Southern California Families for Safe Streets, which Lily and Jerry, who just spoke, and Didi, who's also in our call with us, they are all members. Families for Safe Streets is an organization for victims and family members of victims of traffic violence. So before I begin, I'm going to start with my poll. So if we can have that. So the question is, what percentage of LA's sidewalks receive a failing grade? Some of you are like, why are we talking about sidewalks? We're talking about teen driving. There's a reason for my madness, but that's the question. What percentage of LA sidewalks receive a failing grade? This is an actual grade that the city gives to its sidewalks. Was it 10%, 25%, 40%, or 75%? Give y'all a few seconds to think about it. And as you think about it, our sidewalks are our largest public space in our city. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. May we see the poll answer, please? Wow, y'all got it. It's 40%. 67% of y'all have got it. It's 40% of our sidewalks have a failing grade. More specifically, 40% of our sidewalks have a D or F grade according to LA City. Now, the reason I bring that up is imagine if our freeways, 40% of our freeways were dilapidated or we're receiving a failing grade. Would that be even possible in LA? And so I want to ask you, why is it that freeways, we seem to have a pretty robust freeways. We actually have more money, and the LA Metro is actually putting more money into freeways, but 40% of our sidewalks are sort of broken and dilapidated. And I'll just cut to the chase. The real reason is because the people who vote are not the people who use our sidewalks. They're people who are in cars. It's a political question. And so that's what I want to talk to you all today about teen driving safety. I know a lot of times when we talk about teen driving safety, it's about your own personal behavior, which is definitely important, right? When you're driving, you want to make sure you're safe. When you're walking, when you're on your bike, you want to make sure you're safe. So while individual behavior is important, it is also how we build our cities, how we build our streets, the laws we pass that really determine also what traffic safety looks like. You know, I want to share with you that, you know, there's a statistics about Los Angeles. Every 36 hours, an Angelino is killed in a car crash. Just think about that. Every 36 hours, someone in Los Angeles City is killed in a car crash. The leading cause of death for our elementary and middle school children, surprise, they're car crashes. The number one killer, it's not, you know, and it's not asthma, it's not any kind of disease. It's car crashes that are killing Los Angeles' middle school and elementary school kids at the most. So I share these statistics with you because sure, we can change this by changing our behavior. We can change the statistics by making sure we drive more safely, we look out, we put our phones down. Those are all important things, don't get me wrong. But it is also how we design our city that really influences also how we drive. So let me ask you, you know, I know some of you are in school, but when you went to driver's ed, did they teach you about rideshare? Did they teach you about scooters? You see a lot of scooters now on the streets. Did they teach you about delivery trucks? Because of everything being ordered on Amazon right now, there is tons and tons more Amazon and delivery trucks that are in our streets than they used to be. Do they talk about bike lanes? Have they talked about bus lanes? See, these are all important things when it comes to having a safer city and a safer street. And so we can do a better job, you know, when it comes to educating our own youth in high school when it comes to stuff like this. Other things to look at is public transportation. Are we investing in public transportation so we don't have to be in our cars, right? So I don't have to walk from, you know, one part of town to the other part of town and risk getting hit. Is there a bus or a subway system that can take me where I need to go comfortably, with ease and with dignity? You know, I don't know if many have been following the news, but a few weeks ago, LA Metro, the largest transit agency here locally, has actually defunded bus services by 20%. That's 20%. They're taking away bus services. So those are people that have to actually either walk to work, get on a bike, or get into their car. So whether you know it or not, buses and trains actually impact street safety. And so one thing I wanted to leave with you all today is your individual behavior is important, but what is also as important is November when you vote. I know some of you may not be of voting age, but that is so important why we need to make sure we vote for elected officials to support our buses, support public transit, but also make sure we design our streets that they're smart and they're safe, that we have enough crosswalks, we have curb ramps, we have stop sign, we have speed humps. All these things can make our streets safer and make our experience better as both drivers and pedestrians. And so if you leave with anything from me today, it is make sure in November you go out and vote. Think of the candidates that you would think about voting for and make sure they support public transit and they support a city that is more walkable and safe for all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We appreciate what you shared. It is extremely important information, and I think it's something a lot of times we don't think about our streets and our sidewalks and making sure that our cities are walkable, and that is definitely important. We are now going to do our final poll for which is regarding street racing, and so we're interested to find out what you all think. So our question is, have you ever been affected by street racing? And so our response options are: have been in a car with someone who wanted to street race, have been challenged to a street race, heard cars racing close to your home, know of a friend affected by street race. So those are our options. It looks like we have 46% of folks who have voted. So we'll give it a little more time. And we want to hear from you. Have you ever been affected by street racing? And as some of our speakers mentioned, though they did not participate in any form of street racing, someone they know has been affected by it. So it looks like we have 66% of folks who have voted. We're going to do a countdown. We'll give it 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we are going to close our poll and share our results. So it looks like 82% of the respondents have heard cars racing close to their homes. We have 9% who have been in a car with someone who wanted to street race, and 9% of folks who said they know of a friend affected by street racing. So yes, it is definitely something to be aware of because the impact is great. And so we're now going to move into our Q&A. We'd like to hear any questions that folks may have so that way we can ask them to our presenters. So we'll give it a minute or so. Feel free to use the Q&A box to type your questions in. If you're unable to locate the Q&A, then just use the chat and we will make sure we look in there so we can read your questions. And we have posted on Facebook, and we're currently streaming on Facebook Live. And I know that we've had some folks who have commented on Facebook. So I just want to read some comments on there. So Gabriella Fisher from Facebook Live posted or commented and said, "Thank you for sharing your story to help raise awareness. I'm so sorry for your loss. So proud of you, Lily. Keep up the great work. Love ya." Gabriella also mentioned or commented, "You all inspire me. Thank you for everything you do to prevent similar incidents. Thanks for sharing, officer. I know your job is extremely difficult and so many tragedies must make it harder. Thank you for your service, dedication, and for helping prevent more fatalities." So that is awesome. Thank you, Gabrielle, for joining us on Facebook Live. We definitely appreciate the support and glad that folks are interested in educating themselves. So it looks like we do have a question for our speakers, and it is in regards to parents. So what can parents, the question is, what can parents do to educate their teens about what they should do to be safe when driving or in the presence of friends? So for our speakers, if we can have all of your cameras on, and as the questions come, you can feel free to answer. So Lori, I see that you unmuted. Would you like to respond?
Well, I think one of the poll questions was really awesome is how confident do you feel? And I think that it's really important after hearing stories like my story, like Dee Dee's story, like Jerry's story, like Lily's story, that you see what the life-changing consequences of not speaking up or of being that person, you know, in the car with somebody and thinking, maybe I'm going to take on this, you know, street racing challenge, or let me just answer that text real fast. So just having that confidence to speak up, especially after you heard our stories, that is why I'm here today. Because, you know, I don't want you or any other family to deal with the consequences our family had to deal with. And also I feel for the family of the young man that hit, you know, my niece and killed her. He also, his family, I had to go to all the court hearings and I had to go to all the court proceedings, and I saw his family and they were devastated. You know, they were devastated just like we were, you know, because they lost their son for 7 years over one mistake. So yes, definitely just having that confidence to speak up to your friends and just tell them, you know, I'm not comfortable with the situation. Get out of that car, you know. You're not only saving your own life, but you're saving your friends' lives.
Thank you very much. Jerry?
Yeah, I'd like to add that I think the best thing that they can do, of course, communicating with their teens is great, but they can model the right behavior. I think we're talking about focusing on teens, but really you're the ones who set the example, the parents. And I know if we had a poll question where we'd asked how many of these teens have seen their mothers or fathers drive distracted while either texting or talking on the phone, we all have busy lives, it would be probably 100%. And I've seen it. I've asked it several times at high schools. So I think modeling that behavior, and I think that teens who are on this call should hold their parents and their older friends and relatives accountable and ask them to please put their phones down. And it's not just about phones, keep your brain on driving too. So do what you can to help your parents, but parents, please do what you can to model the best behavior for your teens.
Thank you for that, Jerry. That's actually, oh, Lily. Yeah, go for it.
No, you can finish that thought if you want to as well.
No, go for it.
Okay. Well, no, I think my recommendation would be, of course, we as parents, right? Our children were not born with a little instructional book on what to do and what to tell them, and had to raise them. Each teen, each adolescent is different than another, but they're all teenagers, and we were all once teenagers as well. And when I see these teenagers and they're just ready to eat the world in one bite, I just love them to pieces. But at the same time, they're fearless. And we have to understand that our kids are fearless. And there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot that we can do to help them. And just like Jerry said, show them, be an example, right? Our children that have passed away now, fortunately, our family members are examples that they didn't choose to be, but they are now. And that's why we're here. Just tell them, and when you were buying a car or when you're showing a car, talk about the good things about that car, how safe it is, what we can do, not how fast it is, not that you can do this and you can, maybe you can do this, but you can do that. No, cars now are also so smart, like they call them smart cars, right? Like smartphone, we have smart cars. So we can learn how to use them the smart way and provide that information to our children. And when we talk about a car, talk about how safe the car is, not how fast the car is.
Jen, can I add something?
Yeah, go for it, John.
Who drives cars anymore, right? We're talking to the youth here. I think the future generation, the car registration has actually dropped. Less and less kids are actually getting driver's license because they don't want a car. More and more kids don't want to live in the suburbs. We have to drive home, then drive hours to work and go back. People want to live in comfort. And so I think y'all on this call already know what the future looks like. Y'all have to help us get there. And I think a big part of that is pushing against the car culture. I want to share another resource. I'm going to put in the link here, but before I do, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm sure everyone in this room can think of their neighborhood and think of, wait, I know this one part of my neighborhood that's really problematic. I always hear speeding cars here. I've seen traffic crashes there. I've been maybe in a crash there myself. So everyone has that part in the neighborhood. What that tells you is your community is misdesigned. There's an engineer sitting somewhere in the department that did not design that, or designed it one way and the community just changed, right? And so it needs to be updated. And so I'm going to share with you a link in here. It's called the Traffic Injury Mapping System. It's by UC Berkeley. It's a little wonky, but if you go in, you can actually find all the traffic crashes that happened in California, from LA to whatever city, if you live in California, that is. I'm sure other states have it too, but I would go take a look, see where you live, look at the map and see where you see a lot of crashes. And that's where you need to go call up your city council member and be like, hey, I personally have noticed this crash is happening here. What are you going to do about it? They need to serve your community and your home. So make sure you empower yourself with information.
I was going to jump in real fast. John, you make a great point. I'm like, this is how I met Lily. Not only was my niece killed by somebody illegally street racing, but we met at a town hall meeting because that street that she was killed on, there had been 60 accidents in the last year in that same intersection. There was speed bumps that the neighborhood had been asking for. Had there been a speed bump, that would have prevented him from being able to drive 80 to 100 miles an hour on a residential street. It was also only a two-way stop. So he ran the stop sign, but my niece did not have a stop sign. So had she stopped because she was the responsible driver and knew that she was supposed to stop at a stop sign, that would have saved her life. Seconds would have saved her life. But instead, she was driving at about 10 miles an hour and was struck by the gentleman that ran the stop sign. So this is really a great point that you make, and that's how I met Lily. So thank you for what you do.
you for that. So we have another question. The question is, how can teens start a dialogue with their parents about traffic safety? Anyone can take it, by the way. We don't have to go in an order.
I'll jump in. I kind of goes back to what I said before. They probably could do it when they see their parents doing something wrong in the car. You know, you're just going to call it out. But maybe, I mean, that's certainly the best time to do it when you see it. And otherwise, I think, you know, just at home, say afterwards, we got back from the store, but I did notice that you had made a call that you didn't need to make, or, you know, you didn't let me help you pick up something. I mean, that's just the best thing you can do, is really just confront that straight on. And I hope that your parents take the time to talk to you. And if you do need skills further, I'm sure we can help you with that as well.
I'm going to jump in too. After attending this event, this is a great time to talk to your parents, because now you've heard our stories and how impactful I hope these stories are to you guys, because all of our goals here is to raise awareness. This would be a great time to talk to your parents after this event and let them know what you heard, and let them, you know, talk about how you felt about our stories and how that impacted you. And I hope that it gives you guys, you know, an opportunity to make, if you're ever in a situation like this, or you're ever thinking about doing anything in regards to distracted driving, you will think twice.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Lily, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing
Okay.
with everyone. I think it's a great advice. I mean, any time, there is no specific time that you can ask them. If you have any question, you can always ask your parents, and then, you know, I think it's great.
Cool. Thank you. It looks like we have another question. So we have someone saying, I have a friend that keeps pressuring me to drive fast because they say I drive too slow. I don't know what to say. It's annoying. What should I say?
Okay, so, you know, they call me Turtle in my family because I am slow in everything that I do, and I ride slow. That's actually one of my nicknames. And then there's nothing wrong with, you know, with going slow, but there is something very wrong with going fast. And you can always speak up. You have the right as a passenger, okay, and as a driver, to be responsible in how you want to drive. And, you know, it is your life at the end, right? And if you're driving and you have somebody within the car, it's your responsibility as well. Now, if you are with someone that's driving fast, there are several things that you can do, many things that you can do, and because you're in that position in that moment, right? That you can tell them, don't do this, please, or can I just get out of the car? If you feel ever feel like you're at risk or something happening, if you feel scared, speak up.
And I'm going to jump in too. So I'm going to say embrace it. Why don't you just be like, yep, I am a turtle. You can make it a funny situation. If they tell you drive slow, say, you know what? Well, great. You know what? I'm going to drive slow and it's okay. The turtle beat the rabbit. So we're good to go. Don't worry about it. You just embrace it. That's all.
Yeah, that's awesome. The turtle did beat the rabbit. Dee.
It's so
true. Can I add also, though, that that's just a way of showing your love and care for your friend or family member by following the laws and driving safely. And you can say to them, even though it comes across as corny, well, you might not like that I drive slow, but I drive slow for your safety because I don't want you to get hurt. And I don't want to be responsible for injuring you. So, you know, there's a lot of different things you can do, and just pick what's going to fit best for the person telling you you're the turtle. I'm the turtle too, Lily.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a turtle.
So, yeah, lots of turtles.
Thank you, Dee, for sharing that. And John, were you going to add something? Okay. All right. So it looks like we have another question that says, how can a teen use discretion when riding with other teens in the car, especially if the car is theirs and all of a sudden their friends need rides?
I don't have a direct answer for this. I have an example. I actually had a friend in college that refused to give rides to anyone more than one person, and that was her rule. She just never felt comfortable driving a car with more than one other person. And so she just had a hard rule, and we all knew it. We respected it. And so I think, I forgot who mentioned the statement before, but if you just have confidence in what you're doing and you know why you're doing what you're doing, then no one can really bother you about it. So make a rule for yourself if you want to.
Also, to add to that, we have graduated driver's license in California. So you're not actually supposed to be driving with anyone in the car unless they're over, I believe, 18 or 21. You'll have to check that for me. But also, parents are giving you conditional driver's license. So if you know that your teens are driving with other people in the car, you can take their driver's license away. I mean, the whole point of not driving with people in the vehicles, because there are statistics that show that when other people join the vehicle, especially teenagers, it's very distracting. So yes, it's inconvenient, but, and no, you cannot write a note and pull the note out to show a police officer when they pull you over. But that is the way, the reason for a graduated driver's license. I actually believe that people should not have driver's license until they're older for those reasons, but at least it allows the young people to get some skills and experience before they're taking other passengers in the vehicles. So it's very important to abide by those laws. And if they don't, your parents can take your driver's license away.
Thank you, Jerry, for that information.
Thank you. Was I
Sorry
accurate?
you were very, very accurate. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I don't have the camera on, but I had to step out. More on that information, there is a graduated driver's license that's going through with the state of California and the licensing procedures. Just be aware that the more people or more passengers a teen driver has, the more likely they are to get involved into a big crash. So just to reiterate on that, thank you again, Jerry.
Thank you, officer. I also would like to add that I've learned, though, that people should get their driver's license at the age when they're younger, because then they will develop the skills. Actually, and I think it's still the law in California, if you wait till you're 18, then the graduated driver's license don't apply. And unfortunately, you're still a very inexperienced driver. So most officers in THP have advised that, you know, get your driver's license, but follow the rules and don't drive with a cell phone in your car or other passengers. I think it's for a period of at least a year.
That is correct. Jerry, I don't know if you want to apply for the Highway Patrol, but we'll be willing to take you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And any of our young people who are interested in a career in law enforcement, we need some amazing people. So.
We're always ready, always taking them. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, officer.
Cool. So we have John, go for it.
Yeah, I just want to also quickly add, because the last two questions had to deal with speed. And I think if we want to really tackle the issue of speed, we have to first understand why are we so obsessed with speed. And one way to look is the car advertisements. The car industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they have an incentive to make sure we all drive cars. And I think it's part of our American culture. You know, when you go to middle school, high school, one of the things you dream about is getting your car, right? Getting your driver's license. Everything is about speed, going somewhere fast, having freedom. And so I think it's a small thing, but being cognizant about these messages that we hear, whether it's in media, whether that's in pop culture, about what cars should be, versus what buses and trains should be. So I think it's important to know these things and call them out when you see them.
Absolutely.
And especially during Super Bowl.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing that. We have another question. Says, for someone who does not have their driver's license yet, like myself, are there other ways to prevent distracted driving and to keep the streets safe?
Well, I'd like to say, of course, you as a passenger with Valentina, my daughter, Valentina wasn't driving either. She was just thinking about, oh, I'm going to start taking this course. I'm going to take that. This is the car I want to drive. Valentina was sleeping in the back seat when this happened. So definitely, if you were riding with someone, you always have a voice to protect yourself and to say something, especially after seeing us here today of all these dangers of, there's so many things like putting your seatbelt on. It's so important to put your seatbelt, even if you're in the back seat, you have to have your seatbelt on. A lot of people, even adults, don't put it on sometimes. So it's very, very important. But even if you're not if you're not driving yet, you're just thinking of taking the test and everything. So all these things that you can see that that you can be aware of and learn about them, and to make sure you can always tell the driver if you see anything that's wrong. If you trust that person that you're in the car with, you still have to talk to them and tell them, an adult, an adolescent, whoever it is that you're in the car with, you can always tell them, or always choose to please ask to get out of the car if you think that you're in danger.
Just really briefly, Connor did not get his driver's license yet either. He was killed before, but he had finished his driver's training. So he was a pedestrian, and we're all pedestrians. From the moment you take your baby home in a car, you're walking to grocery stores with your children. So as a pedestrian, you also have to know that when you're walking in, jaywalking in particular, but even in a crosswalk, if people are looking at their phones, they don't even know there's a crosswalk. So you really have to make sure that you are almost getting, I walk a lot, one of my fun facts, and I make sure that I have eye contact before I cross the street with the drivers. I use my hands to make sure that they see me. I try to wear bright clothing. I think you can do a lot, even if you never become a driver, because you'll be walking, you'll be a pedestrian. So you really do have to stay safe. And if you get in a Lyft or an Uber or a taxi, they tend to want to get on their phones too. And I have told people to please put their phones down. And you can share stories. Maybe you can tell them you've heard somebody who lost their life. I do share my story, and I will tell you, they immediately put their phone down. So those are some things that I think you can do, even if you never become a driver. And that's important as well. Good question.
Also, speed humps reduce death and injury on a street by 40 to 60%. So those help as well.
Great statistic. I did not know that.
Yeah, thank you for that. We appreciate you sharing that. So it looks like we are going to wrap up. At time check, it is now 6:24, and we are nearing our end. We want to give a special thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, and all of our presenters. We do appreciate you. So we are now going to put the evaluation into the chat for everyone. We ask that you complete the evaluation because this helps us create amazing events and have the opportunity to bring on amazing participants as well, and presenters. Additionally, with the evaluation, it lets us know how well we did, if there are things that we need to work on, or things that we need to include. And just get your feedback and find out what you learned. So thank you very much for completing the evaluation. We want to just give that thanks in advance. Additionally, when it comes to our raffle, we know that there are young folks who are on. And so what we are going to do, as we have done in times past, is take a look at the sign-in sheet, and based on the youth who attended versus the youth who registered, we want to make sure that for those of you, the young people who attended, that you all have the ability to be entered into the raffle. So we are going to send a follow-up email tonight that will have the names of our 3 winners, and it will also have the prizes that you won. We have some really great gift cards from Starbucks and Coffee Bean and Chipotle and some other places. And so you'll be able to see which gift cards you've won. And then we'll send a follow-up email to you as well, asking for your address so we can mail your gift card. We want to give a special thanks to all those who have been involved with the planning, preparation, and participation of this event. Special thanks to Damian Kevitt, who will be with us on Friday, Didi Gonzalez, Erica Winston, Fred Noya, who will be with us on Friday as well, Jerry Lynch, John Yee, Lily Trujillo Puckett, Lori Argumedo, Maria Vila, who you all will meet on Friday, Minor Borjas, Roberta Tapp, and Roberto Gomez. So thanks again to everyone for participating. And a name it looks like I missed, unfortunately, and in my era is Melissa Estelle with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who you will meet on Friday. So again, thank you all very much for being with us tonight. We are excited to have you with us. The evaluation link has been put in the chat. Additionally, when you X out, then you should receive the evaluation as well. So thanks again to our panelists. Thank you to our presenters. And we are going to...
And
Oh,
see
thank
you
you.
on Friday. We'll see you back on Friday, hopefully, right?
Yes. And to wrap things up, we're going to conclude with some final words from Lily Trujillo Puckett with Street Racing Kills.
Hi, everyone. I just want to thank everybody, not only our panelists, but everybody that's here with us today that took the time to sign up, to listen to all my amazing students. Thank you for participating on the polls. I really, really hope, actually, I know you guys got something today. Maybe it could be distracted driving, street racing, pedestrian safety, anything from Lori's story, from Dee's story. I'm very happy that you were here today, and I know that I cannot see you, but I hope that I can see you all back on Friday. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to everyone who watched on Facebook Live. We appreciate you. Everyone have a great night.